It was a hot afternoon in May 2011. I was just leaving my home in Northwest Las Vegas to head to work. It was about 3 in the afternoon, and I was on my way to Creech Air Force Base. I was a combat drone pilot, or remotely piloted aircraft pilot, in the US Air Force. I was on my way to Creech that afternoon to fly a mission. I was leaving at about 3 p.m. so that I could brief with my sensor operator, or my co-pilot of sorts, and the intelligence officer. On the way to Creech, you see things like this. A lot of desolation, mountains, a few buildings. It almost looks like Afghanistan. And you see these, MQ-1 Predator drones. You see maintainers moving the aircraft around, getting them ready for local missions. And you see dozens of these. These are ground control stations. On the left, you have your pilot, and on the right, you have your sensor operator. The sensor operator sort of serves as a co-pilot, as the person who guides the camera, guides the laser that guides the missile that we carry under our wing. And then the pilot, of course, flies the aircraft and commands the mission. It's a 2-person crew, all alone, flying from Las Vegas, a plane that is over 7,000 miles away in Iraq, Afghanistan, or any number of other areas. So I briefed my crew. We briefed with the intelligence officer. We knocked on the door of our ground control station and went in and saw this. The plane was already in the air, the previous crew flying. As we always did, I briefed with the pilot to understand what was going on. The sensor operator briefed with the sensor operator, and we switched seats. It's very unique in aviation. It's not always that a crew of an aircraft doesn't take off and land the aircraft. We did neither. So when we briefed, we were told that it was going to be an 8-hour mission of pretty much flying circles, burning holes in the sky, as we say, watching a target, mostly on autopilot, pretty mundane. And as a freshly trained 25-year-old with a sensor operator who was also freshly trained, all of 19, I was okay with that. So not 10 minutes later, not 10 minutes after sitting in the seat, we hear come across the radio, Tiger 6-2, standby 9 line. We were shaken awake. A 9 line is a set of instructions from a commander on the ground in country, in this case Afghanistan, that basically tells the crew you're about to kill someone. You're about to strike a target. It's a specific set of instructions about the person, where they are, who they are, what they look like, any number of things. And the name on that 9 line was a very bad person at the top of a very short list of bad people. We used those 9 lines to look for people like this, Osama bin Laden. Our 9 line came in, detailed set of instructions. I briefed my crew, briefed with the commander on the ground in Afghanistan, got the aircraft ready, got the missile under our wing ready, and lined up our aircraft with the terrorists in our sights for the shot. We turned on our heading, crosshairs on the terrorist. Everyone was ready, and I began my countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Beads of sweat pooled on my forehead. 5. My death grip on the controls became even tighter. 4. Butterflies filled my stomach, and my vision narrowed. 3. Leap forward a few years. All I wanted to do since I was a little kid was be a pilot in the US Air Force. I watched Top Gun, wanted to be that cool guy flying the plane. I wanted to grow up and be a leader in the Air Force, be a general. But after I was diagnosed with a medical condition while flying, and after a year-long battle with the Air Force, being sidelined from flying for a year, I got the call. That one day changed my life. The Air Force said my medical condition wouldn't allow me to stay in, and not only was I grounded from flying in the Air Force, but that in the next few weeks I would become a civilian as well. I was devastated. This was all I ever wanted to do. And after this long fight, the Air Force said no. I felt like the Air Force turned her back on me. So I'm just out of the Air Force. I'm a civilian. I'm terrified, alone. I've always been in a system where there are other people kind of supporting me. And now I'm all alone. What was I going to do? Should I go to law school? No, that would have been a terrible idea. Should I get a job with the government? Should I get a job somewhere else? I just didn't know. Luckily, a recruiter reached out to me, and I ended up taking a job in Los Angeles as a trucking executive. That's right, trucking. Not sexy, not glamorous, trucking. But after a year and a half of discomfort, not knowing about the business and learning and growing and learning sales and operations and running a $40 million profit and loss, I learned a heck of a lot. And after a year and a half, I decided that I wanted to leverage my passion and understanding for drones to start my own business. Skyborn was born. Skyborn is a drone services platform that pairs drone pilots with organizations that need their services. For example, using drones, we can take photographs of Walmart parking lots and accurately gauge demand and thus sales numbers for Walmart for a coming quarter. And just a few months after that, I started at Anderson. I started learning in the part-time program as a FEMBA. I started learning the theory of business, and I could immediately apply that to Skyborn. But nothing that Anderson could teach me could prepare me for the rigors and discomfort of entrepreneurship. Cold calling potential customers, working through issues with my pilots, and even just balancing the business checkbook. All new, all hard, all scary. I've been in some very stressful situations in my life. As a young student pilot with a nervous smile on his face preparing for a solo, I was pretty stressed. Flying the T6 Texan to 2,900 pound-feet of torque, and you can feel every pound-foot, trust me. Dealing with tons of controls that I have to not only pay attention to, but fly based off of, while paying attention outside. Flying aerobatics, paying attention to everything around me and where I was. No GPS, just had to know where I was in the aircraft, in the airspace. Flying in formation, tight formation, within 10 feet of other aircraft. Terrifying stuff. Having to pay attention to everything while being terrified, focusing on what you had to accomplish. So why was starting a business so hard? Why was it so stressful? I thought the military had trained me to deal with situations like this, had trained me to deal with any myriad situations. But in starting Skyborn, I learned something interesting. I learned that a lot of what goes into success is getting comfortable with discomfort, constant discomfort. Pushing myself all the time beyond my comfort zone, incrementally and way beyond my comfort zone. And I learned that as I did this more and more, I became more comfortable in these extremely uncomfortable situations. And that's what starting an organization is all about. Hiring, sometimes firing, working your butt off on a product that you think is so great and amazing, and then you put it out there, and somebody hates it, guaranteed. It's all scary and it's all new. But along the way, I learned that if I could put myself in at least 3 situations a day that were incredibly uncomfortable, I could learn and grow and transcend that discomfort. Whether it be asking my professors in class awkward questions, which I do, as my section mates know. I try to limit it to 3 per class. Or calling on an executive of a billion-dollar firm and asking her for her business. Or even just saying sorry when I know I've done something wrong. It's all challenging. It's all stressful. But I could transcend that. If I did those things, I could transcend that distress and be able to put myself in even more uncomfortable situations and grow even more. And it was a virtuous cycle. More opportunities would open up. I would start to enjoy it. The rush of that. And that reward, those rewards of greater confidence, the opportunities I was taking, was a payoff. So returning to that day in May in 2011, I was at 3 in my countdown. My vision had narrowed, beads of sweat on my brow, tight grip on the controls. I paused before saying two. For a long time, an uncomfortably long time. I composed myself, took a deep breath, relaxed, released my grip on the controls. My vision widened. My focus came back. My sensor operator looked at me, and just before shouting out two, I called out, "Abort, abort, abort! Tiger 6-2 is abort at this time." Immediately, the ground commander in Afghanistan came back and said, "Copy that, Tiger 6-2 is abort, state intentions." Before I could say anything, the terrorist in our crosshairs knelt down on one knee, stretched out his arms, and wrapped them around the child that had run into frame. We didn't shoot that day. So what I thought the military had taught me was to deal with every situation, but that's not what they had taught me. What the military had actually begun to teach me is to get comfortable with that discomfort, to learn to transcend it, to control the fear, so that I wouldn't be driven by that fear, but instead I could be driven by instinct, intuition, and my senses, and paying attention to everything around me. And that's something that anybody can do. It's a skill that's learned. It doesn't have to be learned flying a military mission. It can be learned, it can be practiced and learned anywhere, anytime. Whether you're pitching your boss on a new project, taking that final in a class you're really stressed out about, pitching a customer, or saying sorry. It's a skill that can be learned, and it's a skill that can be translated to any number of things. I believe all facets of life. So while I know that I'll never be fully comfortable, ever, in any of these bizarre situations, these tough, stressful situations, I'll never be fully equipped, I'll never have all of the tools I need to accomplish my tasks and feel great about them. I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.